This is Changeling the Podcast.
Welcome to Changeling the Podcast. Come for the glamour, stay for the vibes. I'm your host, Josh, and with us is your other host, Puka. Say hi, Puka.
Da da da!
What are we talking about tonight, Puka?
Well, having given a basic overview of the Changeling 20th Anniversary Edition core book, we are now going to zoom in a little bit on things that we see as new and noteworthy, or at least noteworthy enough to pay attention to.
Yeah.
So, the standouts.
Yes, I'm sure there's tiny little things we'll have missed.
So many.
Yeah. And there was a little when we were planning on this, we're also going to be doing one on changes from previous editions, and sometimes the line's a little bit fuzzy, but...
Yeah. But this is really, I think the first episode we kind of intended for people who were new to the game, you know, to kind of have like a guide through the book. This is more for people who are familiar with Changeling and want to know about like what are the big new things, not just the changed things, but entire additions to the book.
Yes. So what first? So the first new one, I think we were going to do kith creation, right?
Yes. So we went through this already, actually, because we have a kith creation workshop episode, which will be linked in the show notes. But I think it's worth saying again that this was a very sensible addition to the game. Because as much kith bloat as there is, people seem to still chafe at not having enough options to represent exactly what they want.
Yep.
I don't know.
It's not a system, it's guidelines. I don't think you could really make I think if they made it any more of a system, though, it would be not good. So I think this is good. It strikes a good balance of structure. And
do you think that if kiths worked differently, because I know we've kind of kicked around whether a different system of arranging splats would be, you know, what that would do to the game. Do you think that this would feel less necessary or less useful if it were more like the Changeling the Lost system or buckets of archetypes rather than specific cultures?
Yeah, I mean, it really depends. Changing the Lost, I don't know well enough. I feel like Changing the Lost actually would be just as necessary. It wouldn't be easier on this. Yeah, I mean, in a sense, it's what character creation in Dark Ages Fae or Exalted the Fairfolk is.
Like, yeah. The guidelines here certainly fit best for Changeling the Dreaming as it is. That's for sure. Very briefly, the 6 steps of the process that they give you. So first, you develop a concept in terms of how the kith appears, what kinds of magic they use, what dreams inspired them, and what kinds of human lives they lead. The last, I would say, is probably overlooked the most, but maybe the most important. Then, second, decide the role of the kith within the world, in Fae society, but also in a freehold, in a motley, or in relation to the dreaming. I'd add also, like, in what kinds of stories you can tell.
Yeah, I think that's the most important. What role do they play in Changeling the Dreaming Chronicle? Or your Changeling Dreaming Chronicle, I guess.
Yeah, specifically.
Yeah.
Next, you pick birthrights that engage with the mythology, connect with mortals, and tell a good story. And here's the first time that we get the distinction of acuity versus magic versus advantage birthrights and kind of rough guidelines about what those mean. The converse of that is then you pick a frailty that tells a good story, will be applicable, and doesn't just do damage. So the trichotomy here is compulsion, curse, and ineptitude.
Yep.
Then you choose an affinity realm that fits for the kith and adjust as necessary. So, and then we get a secret kith.
Yeah.
Domovoy. Well, so it's new.
They're not new.
But official. It's new in the official sense because it was in the unofficial kith book Boggins. See our episode on that for more.
Yeah.
But as presented here, they have Boggin vibes. They're born from dreams of family protection. I think of it's the Fae godparents.
The only thing I do think thinking about, are you making a whole new kith from whole cloth, or are you altering another kith? Would be a thing, a step part to think about.
Yeah. But it's interesting with the Domovoy in particular, though, because even though they have Boggin vibes, their birthrights and frailties and nature seem very different, which I think is good. I think it's like...
Yeah, it's more like they play the same dreaming role without, or a similar dreaming role without actually mechanically being that similar.
Yeah. I like that they're stealthy. Because like a boggin can be stealthy, but you don't often think of them as such.
Yeah, actually, you talk about, what is the folklore the boggins are based on? They don't always do a great job at that. And this, in some ways, does better.
But clearly this was designed with a lot more intention and desire for balance than some of the other kiths that appear in the canon. So.
Including in this book.
Yeah.
One thing we don't get in this book is a noble house creation system, but we do get a sort of new noble house. This is...
Yeah. Technically, they were written up for Time of Judgment, but they were cut. So
yeah, House Danan.
House Danan. In Time of Judgment, they were kind of presented as like the ruling house of Arcadia, right? In that end time scenario.
Or
not so much here.
Yeah, and they're not... These are definitely more playable than what we got in the cut stuff.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so here they're the 14th house for balancing out the Seelie and Unseelie numbers. And they're the ones that, on the way back from Arcadia and the Resurgence, largely stayed in the Dreaming, and so they're only recently coming back to Earth. They see themselves as pathfinders, heralds of change, who are thirsty for exploration. I don't know, like, I guess they'd be good in a Dreaming game for sure. Beyond that, yeah.
Yeah.
They're relatively small in number and scattered across the Dreaming and Earth, so most Fae have little contact with them, save through messengers.
These seem to be designed to annoy Gwydion characters. That's the main purpose, I think.
I can get behind that.
Yeah.
Just because they have a non-Shihai lord, is that why?
No, and they're from... Even though they're not, like, the ruling house of Arcadia, they're, like... They still seem a bit more Arcadian than the other ones in some ways. And they're... But they're unseelie, and they're...
Well, their boon is, like, off the chain, because they have multiple abilities that reflect their dreaming side, and then, like, their flaws just kind of... Yeah, okay, the myths hit them a little more strongly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, their flaws kind of nasty.
Yeah. But the fact that, like, Chimera can't attack them.
Pathfinders are in no danger of bedlam from simply living in the Dreaming. This is the only mention in this book, I believe, of danger of bedlam from simply living in the Dreaming. So...
Wow. They can also find the Silver Path pretty easily. Yeah. I did kind of think about, it would be interesting if they had a purely chimerical retinue. Like, if they took the retinue background, who would it be? Just have all these chimera running around.
Or that one tiny little sidebar with no rules. They could have, like, some trolls and boggins and stuff who are not changelings.
That's true. I don't really know why we needed them. I mean, the idea of nobles of the Dreaming was, I think, already kind of filled better by the Firbolg.
Yeah, I think we could have got a better 14th house. I think it was just because it was cut. That's the... And the purpose of it was for the an end time scenario. It's not really the point of it in a regular chronicle.
Well, I guess also people were like, well, the Skaha are nominally Seelie, so we need a neutral nominally unseelie as well. But C20 in general, I would say, has already been recentered enough towards dreaming games that I don't think, even though this house is less necessary to include, people will want to play them more, because in the Dreaming, it's like, yeah, of course you want to play these. Well,
they actually also really intrude on, especially what C20 doubles down on, Baelor's role. So
yeah, I don't know. They're not my favorites.
No, I'm not saying... I also didn't like... I wouldn't have used them in a regular game based on what we had before. This is still... I don't know if I'd say a player can't take it, but...
Yeah, the other houses have enough going for them.
Yeah. And next we got the new arts.
Yes.
So let's start with Contract.
So I have just the 5 powers listed here.
Yep.
Contract is make oaths binding at level 1. Level 2, you can know when the oaths that have been sworn to are broken.
Not oaths. Not just oaths. Like
agreements.
Promises. Agreements. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Make agreements binding. Know when they're broken. At level 3, you can punish someone for breaking them. At level 4, you can make just casual conversation binding. And then at level 5, add like blessings to the agreement. Basically make them oaths.
Yeah, and this is an interesting art. It functions differently than the other ones.
It does.
I like it a lot, actually. It's
just weird.
You have done deal, and then everything just modifies done deal. It feels actually a lot like Exalted Charms, especially for like servers and stuff. So, and I know there was some overlap in developers.
And the unleashings are just very... I think like a more robust oath system would have been more what I wanted rather than this art. Like I don't
Mm.
hate it, but
I
yeah.
I like it, but
Do you know what it is? It fits with modern social media interpretations of Fae lore, like the memes that go around and be
mhm.
like, "Oh, the Fae shows up and wants your pronouns." That trope
Yeah.
of like, be careful what you say around the Fae.
Oh, that predates social media.
It
Yeah.
does, but I feel like the shape of the art here
Yeah.
is more in line with modern interpretations than the actual folklore. I don't think that's a problem necessarily, but
Yeah.
you know,
Well, I think my biggest problem with it is done deal by itself. Yeah, that
the
that
base
is
of everything else.
well, no, but that one is kind of superfluous with the oaths, right? If all you're
Yeah,
gonna take is done deal, it's like, why do you even take this? Why don't we just swear oaths? Like,
yeah.
well, although it does work on mortals and stuff, I guess. But once you start modifying, it starts serving a purpose beyond oaths. I think.
I would have been fine with a different art and just more mechanics around oaths.
Hmm.
That's me.
I don't know. I like it, but
Yeah.
the next one is Dragon's Ire. Now, here's the one I don't like.
So at level 1, you can empower yourself or an object or someone else.
Yeah.
Level 2 gives super dodge. Level 3 forms armor. Level 4 allows you to do ranged damage. And level 5 is like a super battle frenzy.
Hmm.
Level 4, it should be pointed out. So some of the powers from the old versions of arts got reshuffled and then sorted into these. So Holly Strike used to be Primal 4, and now it's Dragon's Ire 4.
Yeah. For one thing, I wish they hadn't called it Dragon's Ire,
Yeah.
because that was a power in second edition. I mean, they're both based around fighting,
Yeah.
but
Now you need to spend dots on an art to get it.
and it doesn't work like the other one anyway. But it also, I would rather like the other arts that have combat. Like a lot of other arts have combat applications.
Yeah.
In many ways, they're better. Like Holly Strike, fine, that one's, but like levels 1 through 3 are actually generally not the right. It feels like only characters who are very combat focused and are thinking they're min maxing, and the storytelling, this is for them to take it, but actually like nerf their character's capability versus other arts. That's the whole point of it, and I don't like that.
Yeah, I'm not wild about it. I think there was certainly design space for a war art of some kind,
Hmm.
but I think you could have done
Yeah,
more unique expressions of the idea rather than just buffing basic combat.
and this one I know came out of the Exalted developer people. They loved it,
Oh, okay.
and they argued for it. They argued with me online about it back in the day.
Ah, well,
Yeah, and then we have the seasonal arts.
yes.
Just we should probably talk about these individually though, because
Well, so starting with autumn, it lets you, in order, command shadows, perceive decay or doom,
mm-hmm.
poison things or people, wither them, or haunt them with ghosts.
Yep.
Very scattershot, but very thematic with a
Mm-hmm.
variety of uses, and finally some Wraith crossover. So I'm into it.
Yeah, I like it.
It's a nice feel.
This is also one of those where I wish there was like alternative cantrip rules, which we're looking into maybe for that C30
Yes.
thing. But this one I definitely can think of lots of other alternate cantrips for. Some others I can't, but
Yeah.
this one definitely seems like a lot of
This
things.
is probably one of my two favorites of the new ones. So,
Yep. And then we have spring.
which lets you bestow energy, make plants, create a healing nexus, make a curse ring, and set up periodic
Yeah.
resurrections.
Yeah. So awaken, I don't know what it does. It's somewhere between useless and very powerful, depending on how you read the words. Sort of nowhere in between.
Much like the art as a whole.
Yeah. Verdant reclamation is plants grow.
I'm all for plants, but
Yeah. No, that's actually for level 2 power, it's okay, I guess. Well of Life is a strange. This is the only healing art, I believe.
that's what pisses me off so much about this one,
Yeah.
because in previous editions when it talks on and on about the famed healing magic of the Fae, and it was like just Primal 4, and so when people are like, oh, there's actually a healing art now, it's like, oh, cool. And no, not at all.
No, it's just one level healing, and I think there should have been other.
Yeah.
This is fine, but maybe there should have been other ways of healing. Fairy rings, very.
Yeah, I don't know
I
what
don't.
that's doing there, except that
Yeah,
mushrooms grow in spring, I
this is not
guess.
a level 4 art cantrip. That's not great.
But it's also, it doesn't fit thematically, like with
No.
spring. And then you go from level 4 being like, okay, I guess that's useful, to level 5 being, holy cats, that's powerful.
It's powerful. It has like massive metaphysical implications. Like,
Yeah,
okay, Changeling has reincarnation. What if you bring someone back who's also reincarnated? What does that mean? Like, there's lots of questions,
yeah,
and you can do it a lot. It's
yeah.
not even mentioning the combination possibility with Summer, which I think it's like based on a reading of the powers, but I'm like, it's kind of a neat idea. But anyway,
Yeah.
let's take us to Summer.
You can tickle emotions, stir emotions, create love, make a temporary freehold kind of, or a fire weapon.
This one had too much emotion things. Like it should have been more
Yeah,
varied at the first. They took the old Aphrodisia art and then stuck things.
stuck chicanery on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like a weird shift in theme midway through.
Uh,
That being said, though, I this is probably my favorite of the new arts.
Beltane Blade though.
Beltane Blade, I noticed that they don't actually tell you how much damage it does, which is frustrating.
No, if the Beltane Blade has a changeling rolls dice of lethal damage, difficulty targets rating.
Right. So what does that mean?
If it's successful, then you roll dice of lethal damage.
Right.
Oh.
How many?
Are you rolling the number of successes? Yeah. Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I mean, it seems really powerful, but
Summer I don't like.
I like Summer 1 through 4,
Hmm.
and I wish that Summer 4 had more permutations somewhere in Summer 1 through 2.
Yeah.
Like, I think it could very much be the art of stirring emotions and having the feel of like a bright and happy home kind of
Hmm.
thing.
I don't know. I think I'd make one of these like I don't know. You make the sun come out or something even at night.
That would be good for level 5.
Yeah.
Take that, vampires.
Yeah, I think that's actually from. I like the Summer Dominion from Dark Ages Fae. That this is
There you go.
vaguely, better than this. And then Winter.
Make things chilly, dull emotion, create fear, sculpt ice, or create magical preserving frost. Kind of gives me the same feel as Summer did, where it's like, oh, that took a turn. Except that level 5 is more an inverse of spring.
I do like this better than Summer though. Like I kind of go, yeah, these make sense to use. Although it's like you're saying new, but like some of these are from Cryosis and stuff.
Yeah, that's true. You can make carbonite. So,
Hmm.
so, as a brief anecdote, when I was working on Kith I did make seasonal magic back in the original conception back in like 2006. I drew up this whole system of seasonal magic. And so when I saw these, I was a little, but it is an obvious design choice.
Hmm.
I did kind of feel the seasons, when I look at the Dominions in Dark Ages Fae, those cover so much more ground than these arts do. And I think that's why I feel these are lackluster by comparison. I
Hmm.
still like them. I mean, summer I like, autumn I like, spring and winter I think are more specific for certain characters, but
Hmm.
and then Contract and Dragon's Ire, I'm like, yeah. I feel like you could get more interesting stories, like you said, from other arts used in combat.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. I think our exact rankings of how we put this is not the same, but it's not.
yeah. But are there any other arts that you would have rather had than any of these?
I mean, that's part of the problem. There's a lot of arts already, and I can definitely quibble with specific cantrips, but it's a lot of arts.
I would have taken a proper healing art over contract, probably.
I don't know if a healing art would be. I'd have the same problem with his Dragon's Ire. I feel like that's not the right way to structure an art. Like all doing the same thing.
Right, but consider that healing, or think of it more like repairing in the sense of
Hmm.
you could fix objects with it. You could
Well, no,
heal.
that'd be the same cantrip.
Right, right. I'm saying you could have a basic cantrip that repairs, whether it be an object or a body.
Yeah.
You could have something that works to repair minds or some kind of metaphysical sickness,
Hmm.
curing curses. Like, there's a lot of
Yeah.
directions you could
There's
go.
also no disease healing anything.
Yeah,
There's no life extension. There's no really what you need is a freehold when you go sleep there like that. But there's like by the book here, not counting unleashing. If a changeling gets cancer, you're SOL. Like there's nothing here that helps you.
Winter 5 extends
Yeah.
lives. But yeah.
Which I don't know if that's good or not, but it's interesting. Like yeah. One thing they could have done is like one of the levels of spring like lets you promote enterprises or something. Like
Sure.
Boggin uses it on their bar to make it successful, and she uses it on their company
Yeah.
competing with Disney or something.
Yeah. I'm glad they exist. I probably would have done them a little differently.
So next we have the Revelry.
So I think I can just read the description in its entirety on page
Yeah,
263.
it's two paragraphs, short
Two
ones.
short ones. Each kith has a way of gaining glamour that draws from the nature of the kith. Redcaps have very different forms of revelry than boggans, and so on. The types of revelry common to each kith are included in the descriptions of the Kithane in Chapter 2. A character can indulge in revelry once per story, in italics. She must spend at least a scene in revelry, and the player must describe the character's revelry to the storyteller. When the revelry ends, the character completely refills her glamour pool. Short and sweet, but let's do an example as well.
Yep.
The Puka revelry is Puka absolutely adore pranks and pulling jokes on others, especially if it takes someone self important down a peg, is a classic way they experience revelry. Puka might also regain glamour by spending time in an open and wild place, relaxing and being free from care. So there you go. I really like this. My
Mm.
sense is that a lot of players don't want to take the time to roleplay out a relationship with a mortal and everything that entails. And even though I am the kind of storyteller who would want that, I get that once in a while, once per story. You want to just get that glamour bump. So if you don't have time to do Rapture, at least have them narrate the scene as flavorfully as
Yeah.
possible. And the fact that it's kith based is cool because it makes a nice sort of disaligned parallel with antithesis, where like the glamour gain is based on your group and the banality gain is based on your individuality.
Yep. I think it's okay. The fact it can't be core to your character, unless you have very short stories without much either banality or spending of glamour. Eh, some of the Kith specific ones, they could take or leave, but
Yeah, individually it's hit or miss, but as an overall concept.
yeah, I don't know who gets it and who doesn't. Do they add them because they have to add it to everything?
Well, so
Could
they did add it to the other kiths that are at the very end. And
yeah.
I suppose I read that as it's Kithane only,
Hmm.
which I know people have said like, oh, well, the Thallain should have it and the inanimation, like whoever. But I kind of like it as a Kithane only thing,
Yeah.
to be honest.
I feel like all the changelings should be able to have it.
Yeah, maybe. When you consider that the core four of Reverie, Rapture, Ravaging, and Rhapsody, to say that slowly,
Hmm.
all Fae can do those things in some capacity, but
Well,
then
not all
like
Fae, all changelings. There's some. I don't think in anime can do all those.
so an anime can regain glamour the same way that Kithane do, unless they lack an anchor. So when they
Mm.
lack an anchor, they
Yep.
can only regain it through reaping.
Hmm.
But that's the thing is each of the groups kind of has their own, or not all of them, but some of them have like their own bespoke way. Like, remember when reaping was the Darkins scaring people to death to get glamour? That was their
Yep.
thing. So if revelry is meant to be Kithane only, I'm kind of okay with that, but I would want
Yeah.
like each other group to have their own.
The reason I would want it for Thallain specifically is I do think it would help with them in roles of antagonist, like sort of help explain their motivation to be doing some of the things they do. But
Perhaps. Well, we'll get to Thallain momentarily, but
hmm.
before then, we've got quests.
Yep.
So there had been intimations in previous editions that quests could help shed banality, but I think this is the first time we get a structured system for doing so.
Yep.
And here they're presented as being oath sworn quests, so you swear an oath to go on it, whether you're an individual or a group.
Hmm.
And they're extended narrative actions. There's the quests of deed, which are searches for great relics of the Fae to reconnect with the nature of the dreaming. Quests of inspiration, which focus on driving a single mortal to the height of creativity, like a mega musing. And then quests of dreaming, which rescue a single mortal, even an autumn person, from banality and inspire them.
Yep.
Should we read an example of each?
Sure. Okay, so for Quest of Deed, we have it was supposed to be easy. Virgilus had only been told of the oaken clock and its golden pendulum, and not the brambles, briars, and beasts that stood between him and his quarry. For a time he persevered. He could feel the thing calling him in his soul. After all, and after call is not easily ignored. When comrades fell, when hunger rose, and when hope slipped away, there was nothing he could do but simply let go. The burden of the quest was too great, even for the promise of freeing his soul from terrible grip of banality, from the ever-encroaching mists that clouded his mind and vision. He no longer certain if he was awake or dreaming. He's no longer certain of his own name, all he knows deep in his heart is that he's failed, but his knowledge slipped into his own fingers. I guess that's a failed one. Maybe
Yeah. It's like, oh no. Sorry,
Yep.
Virgilius.
It was the shortest one, but that's because it failed.
Well, Quest of Inspiration. Oh no, the one that I picked is also a failure. Well, Thaddeus has been around the block more than a few times, a real grump's grump, content to hold on to what is his. Yet banality still eats away at him, and he spends more and more time wondering what will happen to him when he's undone. When he hears a mad satyr half taken with bedlam describing a way to expunge one's own banality, can Thaddeus really be blamed for wanting just a little more of this life? He had it all worked out, get a particularly inspired writer friend noticed, get her a job at a motion picture studio, and watch the glamour roll in. It might just have worked if his friend had been picked up by a painfully banal producer who put her to work penning extruded blockbuster product. Now her own creative spark is rapidly diminishing, and Thaddeus can feel the cold chill of winter eating away at him. Bummer. I don't know what a real grump's grump is supposed to mean.
More grump than grump. Very grumpy grump.
I guess so. The Quests of Dreaming are all really long. We don't need to read those, I guess.
Yeah.
Anyway, I noticed that the actual mechanics laid here, there's more detail about how you gain banality by failing your quest than actually reducing it. So the inspiration quest is the only one that flat out indicates how you can shed a dot of banality through these.
Mm-hmm.
So they seem like high risk for unclear reward in a lot of cases. It's also unclear how these are separate from oaths. I mean, they're said to involve oaths, but oaths already involve swearing to fulfill a task with rewards and then penalties for failure. So again, I'm left thinking maybe a more robust oath system would have been helpful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like these though. I want more quests than just these two.
Yeah.
And the fact that they're so focused on lowering banality that I'm also not like, there should be like a system that you'd call a quest for like bringing back a changeling who's gone through the forgetting or something. Or maybe I want quests to be more than this is here. I want it to be like more structured systems. Also, like how to deal with bedlam for somebody should be like a quest. So
yeah, it's very much it's in the shedding banality chunk. So
yeah, I thought I liked it more than now I like it less.
So then back to the Thallain.
So we're just talking about the new Thallain.
Buckets full.
Just the new Thallain, which is still a lot.
But they also expand the system dramatically. I mean, compared with the write-up in the Shadow Court.
Yep.
Like, you can play PCs now, even though the book doesn't want you to. So.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, the Nightmare Legacies.
Good reminder that Unseelie doesn't just mean evil, but...
Mm-hmm. They get seemings. Their own kind of seemings.
Yeah, I did think having the different names and triggers and immunities was like a great design choice. Because it gives that similar but corrupted angle.
Yep.
So should we go through the new ones? I've got one-liners again.
Sure. So we can start with Ghasts.
I think Bodox are first.
Oh, Bodox. I forgot those are new.
Yeah.
Bodox.
So these are corrupt Cluricon. They are boneless but frail boogeymen that like to feed on children.
Yeah, this one is like... Is that Cluricon?
Apparently?
Does it even say Cluricon here? Oh, it does a distant related. Bodox are house fae.
Shrug.
Yeah. Ghasts. These...
Yeah.
When I said people can play player characters in some of my games, not these.
These are the corrupt redcaps. They are skeletal, flesh-eating organ traders who have powerful mist-related abilities. If you've seen the Buffy episode Hush, they're the gentlemen, essentially.
Yep. Except for they can still talk.
Yes.
Is the Hokaipo new?
Yes, the corrupt Menehune. They are vulgar warriors who march out at night to pillage and whatnot.
And for more information, listen to our Cup of Dreams episode. Actually, we didn't really mention them much, but they do show up in the Cup of Dreams.
They are in there.
Well, the Ghasts do too, but at least these Hokaipo are more like it. The Ghasts in that book were nothing like the Ghasts here.
I mean, it felt like name dropping, basically.
Yeah. Are Kelpies new?
They are, because they are corrupt Selkies. Yeah. They are amphibious with a horse form that lures victims to drowning.
Mm-hmm. Which is funny, because like I know some folklore around Puka where that makes like things called Puka that are more like Kelpies, but
we don't like to talk about it.
And then there's the Okay, are these a version of anything? The lurks. These aren't even.
They are not.
They shouldn't even be Thallain, in my opinion. Like, I,
Probably not.
I guess okay with them existing, but they're.
Well, we had cryptids in the Nightmare Chimera section, which,
Yeah.
depending how you want to draw that
But
circle.
these are like Bigfoot.
Yeah, or the swamp monster, swamp thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, classic wilderness monsters, mostly nocturnal, big and
Hmm.
unkempt and hungry.
Yeah, this feels like it should have a different category than it. They shouldn't even be Thallain either.
Mhm.
Mandragoras.
The corrupt Yiladu. They are similarly seasonal and appear like the Yiladu, but they are bound to a tree that they corrupt under their influence and bait
Hmm.
people who pass by so that they can sup on them.
This actually reminds me of those little red guys from the Strangling Willows.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Was it willow or something else?
No, Strangling somethings. I thought
Yeah,
they were willows that eat other. Anyway, and then we have.
the nasties, I guess.
There's Thallain satyrs with everything that implies.
Yeah. Disgusting and predatory and
Yeah.
corruptive, with pet vices. Not great as player characters.
No, or even as bringing them into a games. That's a. Do we do a safety tools
Yeah,
episode?
and they're walking content warnings.
Yep. There's the night hags. Are those Thallain of anything?
I don't think so. These are the ones that in our roundtable Christine talked about.
Yeah,
How she had come up with a kith that became the night hags.
I like them. That's a
Yeah.
monster thing. They fit a good role and everything.
Yeah, these are the sleep paralysis
I think
ones.
these are my favorite new Thallain.
That's fair. They hate light and they go around at night draining glamour.
Yeah, I would argue these are more Thallain of the Slua than the Bogies are.
Yeah, possibly.
The Severtall. Those did those exist before?
They did not. We had House Balor before as our she Thallain, but
No, but there was something Galconder or similar. Did they?
oh well, but the Gunkener was more like
Mm-hmm.
seductive. It wasn't like a charismatic leader who transforms others into itself. And it also wasn't a kith, it was like an
Mm-hmm.
individual as it was presented. But yeah, that's the Severtall.
Yeah, and if they enchant someone who's unawakened, they become a Severtall.
Well, an unawakened changeling, yes.
You know, we change like that. There's another one that I know's
A name that we won't say.
yeah.
But they are Thallain from the Nunyahi.
Yeah. And they apparently really got the lore wrong on that too. But
I believe it.
Weeping Whites.
Yes. Spawned from urban legends of curses and hauntings that they compulsively reenact.
Mm-hmm.
So 11 new ones to round out the 8 that we already have.
Yeah.
But I guess it's good that when the Thallain were first introduced, they were like corruptions of existing Kithane kiths.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't all of them. So now we have like the full set.
Yeah. We also have ones that aren't of any kith and
Right.
some that are of non-Kithane kith. So
Yeah. Overall, the way they're presented here, they're a little more extra. I guess this is getting into changes more than new stuff, but it feels like their birthrights and frailties are more intense. Having a nightmare legacy rather than 2 unseelie legacy kind of doubles down on their nature, and they seem generally to present larger disruptions to Fae and mortal society. The
mm-hmm.
fact that they're presented as being like storyteller characters, they should have guessed that players would want to play these and maybe done them
Yeah.
a little bit more carefully as a result.
And I also find their like okay, first of all, River Hag, which is not new in this, but it's like why is a River Hag not a Thallain
Right.
versus like the Lurk? Like Lurks are less Thallain than River Hag. And yeah, so like in some of these I go like maybe this shouldn't be a Thallain, like the Weeping Whites. That's
Yeah.
almost like going into that could almost play into what we get later with the Lycians, like some sort of dark those.
Well, and what this section doesn't really do is elaborate them into like a fully functional society that we can see dovetailing with the other groups. Like we don't get information about how they go through Chrysalis or what glamour and banality are
Yeah.
like for them, who their dreamers might be, you know?
This is a problem with everything here that's the Fae not in the core kiths.
Yeah.
It suffers by being sort of squeezed into a small word count later in the book as opposed
Exactly.
to
It also leaves me with a lot of unanswered questions. So like Huakai Po, can they enter the Umbra? I don't know.
Yeah. Are
Like,
they? Do they go through like corrupted natural things?
I imagine that for something like the river hags and the guests, it's the red caps who are deciding what counts and what doesn't. But
Yeah.
metaphysically, one is Thallain and one isn't.
Yeah. There's just not enough information about some of this, even as for NPC stuff.
People have urged us to do a Thallain book for the C30 project.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway.
And then we have other kiths. So a bunch of these already exist, and all of these existed in some form.
There are new ones in English, specifically.
Yes. Yeah, the new ones in English. So I guess the first, do you want to give a summary? Is
Yes.
the Corrid.
Yes, the Corrid, who are stocky little lore keepers who love secrets, and each of them carries a big one, and they also like rituals. The art is really cute, but I feel weird about that being what they look like.
Yeah, but it also fits to the description because it's like, how is that a changeling? Like, that's very.
Yeah, in the original art, they're like garden gnomes with the hats and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But okay. Then there's the Morganed, who are basically merfolk, but more engaged with mortals to inspire sea wonder, and they dwell on the surface, so they're, more protected from banality, more familiar with the autumn world.
But it'd be nice to know how this relates to if you were using Blood Dim Tides. How do these relate to the merfolk?
Well, it raises the question for me, are merfolk really changelings? Like, when you think about
Yeah.
it.
No.
Yeah. I mean, yes, I agree with you. Not yes, they are.
No. Yes.
The
Yes, they are
Morganed,
not.
the Morganed definitely are changelings, I feel.
Yeah. And there's nice sirens.
Mm-hmm.
The Witchel?
Wichtel.
Wichtel.
These are brusque, industrious, blue-collary types who mine the earth. Formerly Chimera, although that's not mentioned here.
I like these. These are,
Yeah.
of the new kith, these are probably my favorite because they serve such a good changeling society. Like, they fill a niche that are not really covered by. It's like somewhere between boggins and trolls, but not really covered well by either. So
They certainly fit better into the game than their original conception.
mm-hmm.
So I guess I should point out the Corrid and Morganed originally appeared in Monte Ténèbres France, which was a French-only book for World of Darkness in the Changeling chapter. And then the Wichtel and Wolpertinger appeared in Trolle Träume tiefer Walde, a German-only book for second edition. We have minisodes on those, which will be linked in the show notes.
And these are the ones that actually came from a stretch goal on the C20
Yes.
Kickstarter. So it was an alternate reality where these never materialized in this book.
They're quite different, though, from their original conception, all of them. So it's not like the stretch goal was to translate the material and massage it into C20. It was just, no, we're going to take the names and the basic idea and invent new kiths.
Mm-hmm.
So last of those, the Wolpertinger, are human-animal hybrids, closely tied to nature and survival. Yeah.
This is, like, I'm trying to imagine somebody playing this as a PC in a game and how I would react to that.
I've got ideas, but I'm saving them for a C30 book project.
Mm-hmm. There's questions left by this point, because they're like...
But as radically different as they are in some ways, I'm glad they made it into the core book because they open up some interesting new directions for the game. At the same time, it really drives home the point that, like, the Kithane-Gawain boundary is not at all well defined. So, like, what level of Fey do you need to affect these? Does it depend on what your own kith is or where you're from? No idea.
Yeah. Well, there's going to be some words on it in a future episode on a book we're doing.
Indeed.
The C20 Player's Guide. Yep. So is that everything new?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the large, standout new stuff.
Yeah, like I say, permanent enchanted.
We'll be covering a lot more of this when we talk about changes to C20 as an edition.
Yep.
Generally speaking, though, throughout the book, one other thing that is more present here, so like the magic system, for example, having the 7 solid examples of cantrips is a really nice add. Having the examples of the quests is a nice add. So I like that they provided a lot more in-game context for what these things might look like.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot more, at least for the things that aren't sort of tacked on as extra little groups, is the thing they do expand a lot on things.
Yeah. And there's plenty of sidebars and throwaway lines and story hooks and whatnot, which a lot of it is new and interesting. So
yeah.
The changes episode, though, is going to be a lot more involved, I feel.
Yeah, and I feel a lot better about the new things. The change stuff is where I get.
Well, some of the
I mean,
changes are good.
some of the change is quite good, but
Yeah.
some of it is
a real head scratcher too.
Yeah. And okay, so I think that's about it for this. You can find us to listen on anywhere you get podcasts, pretty much. If there's somewhere you can't get podcasts, though, you can email us, podcast@changelingthepodcast.com, or for whatever reason you can email us. You can come into Discord and chat. It's a very lively Discord at this point. Discord.me/CTP. Talk to us on Mastodon, ChangelingPod at dice.camp. You can join our Facebook group, or follow our Facebook page, sorry, the group, Changeling the Podcast. Go to our Patreon for Changeling the Podcast if you want to back us and send a bit to help keep the lights on. You can go to our YouTube for Changeling the Podcast.
And links to all of the above will be in the show notes.
Once again, I'm Josh.
I remain Puka.
And remember, if you're playing a Wopatinger, probably don't take the holding background.
To make a prairie, it takes 1 clover and 1 bee, 1 clover and 1 bee, and Revelry. The Revelry alone will do, if bees are few. It's time at last to come clean. The entirety of Changeling the Podcast is actually a massive chronospunk by which we will retcon Changeling the 20th Anniversary Edition to include some of the new things that we would have liked to have been added. Once we work out the unwieldy verb tenses of sentences like the one that just happened, and hash out the trickery of the mists, expect that C20 will suddenly have a variety of hitherto unseen tidbits. Beyond the wishes we already laid out in this episode, you might find information about the existence of South and Southeast Asia, a Bakken art entirely themed around breakfast and second breakfast, and an entire class of chimera made up of cuts to the audio of these podcasts. For anyone who doubts that there's a Chronos cantrip capable of doing all this, we will also have already introduced alternative cantrips to the game in a feat of paradoxical historical revision to make an Islandid's head spin. If you'd like to help us manifest this endeavor, you can support us by leaving a review on the podcast listening platform of your greatest convenience. Click like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, or just tell your friends and robot polycules about our show. We also especially appreciate support on our Patreon, which you can sign up for at www.patreon.com/changelingthepodcast. Among other bennies, patrons get a shout-out at the end of each episode, like so: Derek, Dorcadus, Elleris, Hugo the Bogperson, Iabol, Jason Vines, Oreo, Roz Caboose, Sandchigger, Sija, Terry Robinson, Tricerabeth, and Victor Torre. 100,000 thanks to thems. With that, it's time for us to get back to the work of messing with the past, so until last time, keep on dreaming.